because everything ultimately comes down to, are you selling your product? And have you got revenue that's growing? Are you on the increase, or are you flatlining, or are you even falling?
Simple as that, folks.
Yeah.
Either you have a revenue or you die. Hello, dear audience. So welcome to the Startup Sales Talks podcast episode with Simon. So Simon, thanks for jumping by, and it was great to meet you in Tel Aviv
It was
a few weeks ago.
Yes, so it's certainly great to meet you in person.
Yeah, Simon. So how it's going, and can you tell us a bit more about your really extensive background in sales and tech?
Sure. So I've been in sales for about 28, 29 years now. In the last 25 years have been within tech sales. So I co-founded two tech companies that were both acquired. One was in the legal recruitment space, a UK-based company. I ended up moving to Israel during the journey of that startup. And then the second company was in the edtech space, an Israeli company which built from about 0 to 2,000 clients, and then sold to a big private equity US-based company. And in both those companies, I was building, growing, managing the sales team and selling myself all the way through from day one till the end. And subsequent to that second exit, when I was thinking of what to do next, I teamed up with one of my co-founders at the previous startup and realized we had what we thought was the secret sauce to building companies from 0 to exit, and to hopefully help other companies on that journey to avoid the pitfalls and to fast track their sales growth. So out of that, we built Pipe Global, and we worked with about 200 tech startups over the past 5 or 6 years, usually more like seed, Series A, grappling with how to land their first 50 clients, or to hire, to recruit, to scale. And yeah, it's been an exciting journey, lots of variety, working with crazy amount of startups across different sectors and really seeing every scenario under the sun.
Yeah, I can agree. When you work with startups, you see a lot of different scenarios, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And let's drill a bit deeper to the Pipe Global. I think we have a very interesting model. You're not typical service provider because you cover different the areas of startup. Can you tell a bit more how you operate with Pipe Global? What kind of what kind of services you provide for startups? And I know that you have a specific methodology, go-to-market methodology that you're following. So if you could elaborate on that, that would be very interesting.
Sure. Yeah. So we work across anything on the go-to-market journey. So from the initial lead generation, so demand gen marketing, particularly focusing on social selling within that in order for companies to demonstrate through the personality within the companies rather than the company themselves. So market expertise, thought leadership. That's an area where we've developed our own company using thought leadership, LinkedIn, etc., to build Pipe Global. So we're using and replicating that methodology for other companies. So that's that original interest in the company, all the way through to the outbound, inbound sales channels and anything on that sales journey, from the recruitment to the playbook to the tweaking things on the way, just to give every chance to be successful. And as you said, we've got a particular methodology which we took from the world of sports. Actually, it's based on marginal gains. Maybe a lot of your subscribers to this channel will be familiar with the book Atomic Habits, which went in depth about this marginal gains theory. And just quickly in 20-30 seconds, what marginal gains is, it is what it sounds like. So the British cycling team, probably the best proponents of this, where they took a failing team that never did anything at the Olympics, and they brought in a new performance director, and he looked at every little aspect, or him and his team. So that could be what pillows they slept on at night. So getting a more comfortable pillow, 10 minutes more sleep, that could be 0.01 extra performance gain, through to what massage oils they used to recover afterwards, through to what time they got up in the morning before the event, through to crazy things like painting the handlebars white. Why did they do that? Because then they could see dust that appeared on the bike that could slow you down, again by a tiny margin, but each little thing added up. And over the past 5 or 6 Olympics, the Great British Cycling team has won gold after gold after gold through this methodology. So we looked into that and thought, how can we apply that to the world of sales? So we look at every little aspect within the sales process. It could be how the CRM set up, it could be how the demo structured, it could be the marketing assets. And no one wants to go in when we work with a company and start again. So we look at what they have through like a sales audit phase where we look in depth about what they're doing today. And then we identify 6 or 7 quick wins of how they can just optimize, improve. And all these additional incremental gains have a massive, massive impact on sales. We see it time and time again. So that's really a methodology we've crafted, built, and refined over the past 200 clients.
Very interesting. Simon, what kind of things British football team lacked in the final a few days ago?
I think it was a structure, to be honest. There wasn't a plan. It was very disappointing because England football team's got great team on the face of it, but they just didn't. I mean, the manager resigned yesterday, and I think he might have even been pushed out otherwise because they didn't seem to have a plan, and they were reactive rather than proactive. So in the last 3 or 4 games, they went a goal behind, and suddenly they kicked into gear, and you were just thinking, why didn't they start playing like that? And you had people who were playing for their clubs in different positions and much more effective for their clubs. And yeah, there were certain things that I think you'll see with maybe a better manager coming in with the same group of players, the results might improve.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's a thing about the startups, and I'm hearing this all day. Reactive and proactive approach.
Yeah,
You can be mad. You can be mad about everything, what happened to you. But it's all about doing action and proactively solving that problem instead of like cursing everyone around. And that, of course, is not so easy to do.
correct.
Usually, it's a good metaphor with the football as well. Okay, got it. And let's touch go-to-market strategies a bit, right? So the
Sure.
go-to-market is probably the main expertise of yours, and it's a hot topic right now. A lot
Yeah,
of things are changing, and it's going harder and harder to do that, right? The rules are changing quite swiftly. So, what are the key elements of go-to-market strategies you believe are crucial, let's say, for early stage startups? And we talk about pre-seed, seed startups that want to have that leap, let's say, to Series A funding.
yeah. I think it's you've got to have your value prop nailed very quickly. Now that value prop, as we both know, can change very quickly when the market feeds back. So you're going to know in real time if your value prop's right or if it needs tweaking. But if you haven't got a value prop, then how are you going to grow? So you need to do a lot of work around that. What is your value prop? What's the pain you're identifying? And it will be maybe different pain for different series of companies in terms of size, location, even. So you need to nail that value prop and then build everything around that. So once you do that, you can start to segment the markets of who your ideal prospects are. A lot of companies try and go for the big fish quite early on, which I believe is a mistake. It takes a long time. You don't really you want to land those quicker wins, even if they're smaller deals, where you're starting to onboard and see everything from A to Z in terms of the sales process. So to really try and identify early on the small and medium companies where you can have a smaller sales cycle, you can see where things are going right, going wrong, and you can iterate and change. And this happens a lot within the Israeli companies that they're particularly good at this. If you're going to fail fast. So if a particular channel's not working, better to quickly iterate and change and not spend 3 months deliberating and quickly move on and change and see what the market says. Because ultimately, the market doesn't lie. So if you can't build a product and then criticize the market for not adopting it, it means you haven't nailed the product market fit yet.
And actually, so I counter many tricky situations like that. Then the founder thinks in that frame. I do go to market. I do LinkedIn calls, emails, right?
Yeah.
Things doesn't work for me. Is it the problem of go to market or your product is shitty, right? So
Yeah.
where to know what's what, because it might be you don't know which case it is,
You don't know what case it is, but then you're very reliant on feedback. Even if every single failed prospect outreach is still an opportunity. Some people will give you feedback if you can frame it asking for help, saying, listen, we're an early stage startup. I appreciate our solution wasn't a good fit for you, I really would love your help to just give me 2 or 3 pointers of why you didn't adopt our technology or where you think we could do better. And you'll find that people are quite generous with their time and their feedback, and a lot of the companies themselves have been, every company started small, so they've been at that stage and they've had to depend on that as well. So you even use the opportunities of a failed outreach to try and iterate and change and see what went wrong, because the market, again, is the barometer of what to do.
Absolutely, and do not waste even the negative reply. For example, if you receive not interested, no, write still a reply so you can continue the conversation. Ask like, what is the issue? Is it timing? Is it something else? Right? So
You can do, and one little quick tip that I'll throw out, which very few companies do, but it can be successful, and it might not be right for you or your company, but it doesn't mean that someone else in their sector, their industry, it isn't relevant for. So if you, especially at the early stage, when you can say, okay, sorry, this isn't for us, you can say, no, I understand that, and thanks for the feedback of why not. Are there any people in the industry you think are a better fit for our technology that you'll be prepared to introduce me to? And often when they've just turned you down and said no, there's a little bit of light there where they feel hopefully a bit of remorse that they're pushing you back and not adopting your product. And that is at the time and the opportunity to say anyone else in your space or industry. And remember, everyone is going to be particularly well connected in their industry. They meet people at events, they move from company to company. It's a massive opportunity to get a warm introduction that 99% of companies don't even attempt.
very good tip. Absolutely, we're doing that as well.
Oh, great.
There's an even outreach strategy that goes after referral, not the conversation. Then you set up the whole campaign only around that, because you're trying just to find the right person to speak with. That's all the campaign does, right?
Yeah.
And you said that it's all about nailing out your value proposition, right? And you don't know what you don't know, right? So you need to test ICPs, buyer personas, right? How the founder can, let's say, what kind of steps would you recommend to founder to nail down the ICP and buyer persona, right? What kind of frameworks they maybe should use in order to put those things in shelves, let's say, and to properly test it, while running to the market?
Well, first of all, you're going to have your own assumptions. You're going to think, our buyer is someone in cybersecurity. It would be quite obvious who to go after in that sector. But today, there's so many buyers and decision makers involved that often your assumptions can be wrong. And I've seen a lot of companies think that they had a certain buyer, only to realize 3 months down the line that they were approaching the wrong people and who could never advance and buy their product. So you've got to be open to going wrong. You've also got to be maybe casting the net a bit wider at the beginning. So maybe rather than narrow down onto the one decision maker, personality type and job title, to try 2 or 3 job titles and see who bites better, who's a more effective way to go in. And again, companies are going to be different. Not every company buys in the same way or structured the same way, but rather at that iteration test phase, try and spread the net a bit wider. And then you're in a much better position to start narrowing it down, the ICP, because the quicker you identify that, the quicker you're going to start to see results and hopefully sales on the board.
Yeah, and especially pre-product market fit startups, what I see is that we speak with founders and I test one ICP. They tell, I test one. Why one? Like test 3, 4 ICPs.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what you don't know, right? Like, and then you iterate based on replies, based on positive sentiments that you receive from the particular ICP. In the particular ICP, you have maybe 3 personas that you're going after the different value propositions, right? So I completely agree. Cast your net wider. That's key, especially pre-product market fit.
Yeah, and look,
startups.
Another thing you can do, it's a good point, Dom, is if you are getting a no because you've put all your eggs in one basket through a certain decision maker type, similar to what I said on the referrals, you can say, hey, it's possible I got this wrong because we're still trying to figure out our product and who it's best suitable for. I appreciate that your department or you personally can't gain from it. Is that just a no for everyone in your company, or is there another department or another type of decision maker within your company that you think this could be applicable for? And again, if so, can you make that introduction? I've seen that be effective as well. You've got to be bold and ask the question at the time. And same logic before, if they've already told you no, and you've got their attention, particularly if it's on LinkedIn and it's more of an instant messaging thing, you might just get that one extra reply that can be the difference between success and failure in that company.
Completely agree. And in the go-to-market currently, there's just so many tools.
Yeah.
The tools are popping out probably every day. We are having a hard time to test every tool possible in the market. And there's so much action going on in the sales tech currently. Simon, do you have any tools that you, let's say, adopted, recently, and that you love to use them, or any tools that you would like to recommend for go-to-market teams?
Yeah, there is one particular tool that, and full disclaimer, I ended up investing in the company having seen how effective it was, because I see dozens and dozens of these set of technologies. It's a company called Novasi. And what Novasi does is they have a conversational analytical intelligence tool. So you think of your gongs and your choruses, etc., which is analyzing conversations in terms of the text itself. They go that step further, because a lot of when you speak to someone, a lot of things aren't being said, so you can actually read into the body language. A lot of the cues that we get in regular conversations, not just sales conversations, are in body language. It's not even, it could be the tone you say it in, it could be the way you say it, it could be your mannerisms. And what it does is it looks at the video in a regular way, but it starts to read body tone expression. It looks at the default neutral tones. It can see when someone's confused, you can see when someone's angry, you can see when someone's just not getting it, for example. And those are the type of insights that are critical, and I've seen real success through companies that I've pushed it onto as well, and encouraged to use it. So it's just a different way of looking at it, coming in at a different angle, and taking an industry where anyway people are analysing conversations, but just analysing it in a much deeper, more meaningful way.
Yeah, and what about top funnel, Simon? Do you see any exciting tools in the top funnel part of sales?
I wouldn't say they're exciting necessarily, but you've got the regular ones, maybe tried and tested ones like your Lucias and your Zoom Infos in terms of identifying the names themselves. They've been around for a bit, and there's always smaller competitors that are going in there. Then you've got the other reply.ios, etc., who are looking at setting up the sequences and analysing the sequences and using data. I wouldn't necessarily call them exciting, but you just look at them one by one and see which is the most functional and which gets the best results, whether it be getting the right email addresses and phone numbers, or having a higher deliverability of emails when you're sending out cold campaigns.
Yeah, I can actually give some insights, at least from our field, about
Great.
Zoom Infos.
Yeah, you're closer to the ground here than me, Dom, in terms of like you've got hundreds of clients you're working with in this space.
Yeah, exactly. And we need those leads. We need the data every day. Yeah, we generate thousands of those, every moment. But actually, we settled down with Israeli tech here, and they beat Zoom Infos and Cognizants.
Oh, really?
The tool is called Rightbound.
Yeah.
They are based in between Tel Aviv and Boston, and we've really been thoroughly testing these tools. It took maybe for us 1 month to make a decision, and finally, Rightbound was the way to go. I can tell it's actually quite expensive. It's way more expensive than Zoom Infos and Cognizants and Lucia's, way more.
Yeah.
But it was worth every dollar for us.
Wow.
And what I see in this space is that waterfall enrichment is the way to go right now. You don't want to bet on one provider, data provider. You want to have a solution that aggregates different sources of data.
Yeah.
And for example, if I need email, the waterfall enrichment system will check that email in 5 or 10 or 15 different databases. And then I have way better data coverage than to buy only one data source. And Rightbound does exactly that. So that's why we settled down with the tool, actually.
Great tips. I'll check them out. And I know I'm aware of the company. I haven't used it in depth, but certainly based on that recommendation, I'll look into it further. Thank you.
Yeah, worth to check it out for sure. What about, this is a hot topic as well, right? The outbound and general cold outreach, the personalization right now is a must. And this is ongoing debate, how we should do it properly, how we should scale the personalization. Do you, Simon, saw any good cases when the company solved that personalization problem? right? Because in my experience, AI personalizators are not there. It Sometimes it sounds terrible. So still you need to do it manually. But like, do you see any case how companies solve that particular problem?
I think companies that are just that's part of their core strategy. So they might still be sending out that your more general outbounds, cold emails almost, but then they dedicate maybe an hour and a half every day to picking up 5 to 10 prospects where they're really going into the company, the personas, they're looking through their LinkedIn, as you say, manually. They're looking at something that's going to stand out. And often, if you look hard enough and there's enough activity on the account, you can see something that's going to stand out. You don't want to be talking about the weather in Boston. You need something a bit more meaningful, whether it be what university they went to, what they studied, a white paper that they did, a panel that they were on, something that doesn't look like you've just ticked a box to say, hey, personalization done. Something that's going to add value to their day. So that's where companies go wrong. The personalization is all about, hey, this is my into the company. Don't think of it like that. If you're not giving value in that interaction, then why should they be excited that you've come up with something that's a commonality? So you've got to think of it again in their terms. Why would that be exciting to them and interesting to them, rather than, hey, I've just managed to make this less of a cold call?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can feel sometimes like this personalization is done just for the sake of personalization. It's
Yeah,
a big no-no. Don't do that.
definitely don't do that. Definitely don't do that. Look, often it's to do with people in the same industry that you met. Say, I see you're connected to so and so, or you commented on Dom's post last week. By the way, I met Dom in Tel Aviv, great guy. And you start to open up the conversation, and these should be human to human conversations, like you'd have it in a
Yep.
restaurant, in a coffee shop. So they shouldn't be too forced and too business-like straight away. It should just be an interesting observation, really, before you get down to the brass tacks, as they say in the UK, and switch it to business too early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, in sales, you talk only half of the time about business. Half of the time, the conversations you have is usually not about the business.
Correct, correct. It's so important. That's why I think AI. I mean, we can probably go on to talk about it in more depth later, but AI with all its advantages and time savings, and we can't. AI is going to be huge in the sales market, but ultimately, I think it might go too far. I think buyers are going to notice at some point when it's almost like an AI approach compared to a regular old-fashioned approach. People like to buy from people that they've got something in common with, that they like, and I think the danger is that companies are going to go too far with AI, and actually companies that stick to the tried and tested old-fashioned rapport-based methods are going to see more joy, because people aren't going to want to buy from almost like a robot.
Yeah. And do you see any other exciting implementations of AI in sales?
I mean, there's lots of things within sort of marketing in terms of the way that you can target, the way you can build presentations very quickly, that you can almost, depending on what version of ChatGPT or AI you've got, you can start to feed in information about a particular company and really come up with almost like a tailored presentation on each occasion. So rather than just having your standard presentation, you can be using AI to make it feel like you've built it and you have built it for them, but you just used AI to do it. So tools like that, for example, or within AI itself. I think that the danger is that people are. I think there's going to be some players that are successful because they've actually worked out the way that to replicate human interaction, and they're going to be the ones, like I said before, they're going to overplay their hand, and companies and people aren't going to want to work with those types of solutions.
Absolutely. What actually moved the needle the most for us with AI was content.
Right.
Content. Wow. I mean, that was a big game changer for us. And I can drop some names. Twain AI, W, great tool.
Right.
You
Okay.
can use it every day for your follow ups, for introductories, for whatever you want. Another tool, Copy AI, really good. Reggie AI. You can check out these tools.
Yeah.
These were game changers for us. Absolutely.
So, what
Uh,
type of content are they producing?
we are using particularly for building outbound campaigns,
Yeah.
and we craft usually email content and LinkedIn content. These are, the kind of the ways we use it. Now, cold call scripts, yeah, you can do it as well, but this is not something that we are doing. But yeah, in general, email campaigns, drip campaigns, newsletters, all that stuff. I mean, it was a big game changer for us. And another game changer for us with AI, and Brightbound is executing it perfectly. It's a AI prospecting,
Right.
meaning, right, that we upload the list of the companies, and instead of like having the team picking out the right leads on Sales Navigator, we just give our personas, and the system just puts those leads for us in like a matter of minutes, right? That was a big game changer as well.
Well, what's interesting, Dom, is that because companies can adopt AI, and as you say, you just mentioned a few of the solutions, but there's dozens, hundreds, thousands of these solutions that are popping up now. It just makes it, I suppose, easier to just reach out to lots more people, and it's just going to make it more and more and more saturated, which means that the quality, for a start, it's no guarantee that your messages are going to even be seen, but it does mean that the quality's got to go up in terms of the messaging, the outreach, the value to the recipient of those messages. Because I can just imagine if I'm the CISO in a company and cybersecurity, I'm however many hundreds of emails a week I'm getting now is going to just double, triple over time as more companies find that they can scale using AI.
Yeah, and the new frontier is rising as well. I call them SDR agents,
Yeah.
agent companies. Never tested, to be honest, like really extensively, because all the ones that we saw is not there yet. Actually, it's not there yet. But I believe that might be a future of SDRs in general.
Do you think that the SDR, as the traditional SDR as we see it today in 2024, in say 3, 4, 5 years, do you think there are going to be SDRs plowing through like the regular processes today? Do you think it's going to be a fully automated process ultimately?
Good question. And my answer is yes and no. Email and LinkedIn, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time. And I think the time is not very far away when it will be practically implemented. We're doing some innovations inside the GrowTech as well. I need to admit.
Yeah.
It has a lot of potential.
Sure.
What I'm pretty sure the one area that will not be automated, and we still will need to have top tier SDRs executing it, cold calls.
Yeah.
And there's a very simple reason why: regulation.
Yeah.
In Europe, is a regulation. It's banned. It's illegal to do this. US, same story. So it's like regulation will not allow for you to do AI cold calls, meaning that you still need to have a human. Now, LinkedIn email is completely different story, and I think
Yeah.
it's inevitable.
That's very interesting, yeah, because the technology either probably exists already today, where you can be having a conversation with an AI bots, and you've got the tone that they can even make jokes and they can adapt it, and you think you're speaking to a real human. I know that call centers are already using this type of technology already, like when you need to change your passwords and do that, you're not speaking to a human, you're speaking to an AI. And yeah, so you'd think it would have a natural crossover into sales, but it's good to hear that is going to be banned. Well, has been banned, because again, otherwise it just opens up the floodgates, and we're going to be deluged left, right, and center.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a uncharted area. I mean, for everybody. And they want that you, for the audience, just if you want to check it out, how scary good it can be, and it already is. Check air.ai.
AIR.
Air, yeah, air AI.
Okay, we'll do.
It's scary good.
Wow, frightening.
Yeah, it's yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, and let's talk about let's say mistakes, right? So we talked about many mistakes already, right? Using personalization for the sake of just personalization, not testing enough of ICPs, not putting the net wide enough. What other common mistakes you see in that early stage startups, that doing in the go-to-market specifically?
We're seeing some good success through, I think I hinted at before about with social selling. I mean, maybe that's the wrong term. Sounds too salesy, just calling it social selling. But the companies that are realizing that there's no point selling through I mean, you need to divide the company and the personas. So think of the company like the BBC, CNN, Fox News. That's the announcements. We've just signed client X. We've just launched this new tool. We've just signed a partnership with company X. That is your breaking news announcements. Whereas the thought leadership should be from a persona or multiple personas within a company. And too many companies, you can see straight away. I mean, if we research it ourselves, you go to the company, you look at the CEO and the commercial people, and some of them haven't posted in 3 years. And LinkedIn themselves, which is obviously the main business channel, LinkedIn don't want to see company commercial after company commercial after company commercial. So they will massively incentivize companies and give them much more airtime if people are posting rather than companies. So massive opportunity there. There's clearly AI within that to write content quickly as well. But again, ultimately you're buying from people. So even if it is using AI to produce the content from a CEO or a chief commercial officer or someone in DevOps, wherever it would be, it's a crucial underutilized type of thing. And like we're doing today, a podcast, it's going to be hard for AI to replace a podcast. This is a real conversation, unscripted conversation. We're just chatting as two people in the same space, trying to swap tips and ideas. That's a great way to digest content. And with all the advent of AI, if you look at the popularity of podcast, video and audio podcasts, it's just rocketing year after year after year, because people are learning from them. People are listening to them on the way. They're going for a walk or they're driving and listening to a podcast. So it's just a critical way for companies to demonstrate that they really are experts in their space.
Absolutely. And what AI creates another effect is that people will want content from people, not from AI.
Yeah.
Like exactly the things that you just told, podcasts, shorts, just natural, right? Without any ChatGPT stuff, right? And I saw some examples that the founders who already have a good personal brand, they can be so ahead and so early in the startup journey because they already have an audience.
Yeah.
Of 30,000 people, for example, right?
Correct.
You can work with that.
Correct. I mean, look, I'm a lot older than you, so I come from a more traditional sales background. My first 2 jobs in sales were pretty much almost like knocking on doors. My first job was selling jewelry, taking a very heavy bag full of jewels effectively and going jewelry shop to jewelry shop and knocking on the door, looking in the window what they had and seeing if my product fit in there somewhere, and just either being thrown out or hopefully getting opportunity to speak. So I'm from that almost door-to-door sales world, which I think put me in good stead even when things became more through tech tools. And ultimately, a lot of the sales that I did back then were from the rapport, from the relationships, from looking someone in the eye. And I know you can't always meet your decision makers face to face, but we need to be thinking about how to almost replicate those offline experiences the best way that we can. So that's something to really bear in mind, because people do buy from people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what is massively unutilized, especially after the COVID, is a face-to-face type of old school door-to-door type of sales.
Yeah.
I personally love it.
Me too. Yeah.
It requires balls.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can execute it, you are way ahead probably and any other remote seller sitting in the office, in the apartment, and doing sales online. I mean, it's completely different depth of relationship that we're able to build.
There must be some sort of equation, Dom, saying 5 Zooms is like 1 coffee shop meeting.
Yeah.
You can see the effectiveness when you look someone in the eye, when you meet them. I mean, obviously we're speaking now remotely, but we met in Tel Aviv, as you said, and it just makes a massive difference to any regular relationship, but certainly business relationships. When you're sitting there, you're shaking someone's hand, you're looking them in the eye, and magic happens when you meet people face to face.
Absolutely, yeah, and let's say let's touch a bit of the trends, right? So we talk about the AI and like tools and everything that things are changing, and one trend I see, at least from my perspective, companies are not specializing their teams so actively, right? That you have an SDR and then you have AEs. right? They put everything on EE, right? EE prospects, right? They have demos, they close the deals. Am I off, Simon, or you see the same trend in tech sales currently happening?
I mean, it depends on, it really does depend on a company stage. Companies that maybe raise a bit more money or have a bigger machine, if that's the right word, they will divide the roles and they will have this almost conveyor belt. The SDR takes it to a certain level, and then the salesperson qualifies it, and they're not really touching each other's domains. And that is the most effective way to do it. But you've certainly got a lot of the earlier companies we work with where it's all hands on deck and people are generating their own leads, but something gives in the process then, because when you go in the morning and look at your day, something's going to drop. It's either that you're not prospecting enough to keep your pipeline growing, or it's that or it's you're doing too much of that because you're not getting responses from the demos that you did do. You're getting ghosted. So it's definitely not the most effective way to do business. And there's different skill sets as well. The amount of SDRs, we've both seen it, who can't make the jump to AE. And the amount of AEs that if they are asked to do that, either they don't want to do it or they're very ineffective at generating new business. So I think it's a different skill set. Doesn't mean that you can't graduate from one to the other, but it's definitely not the way to scale and grow a company. And that's what we're about, scaling, growing companies. So it's not a methodology we'd ever recommend.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw it multiple times. They hire an AE and they tell just do sales, right? For some founders, just do sales, right?
Yeah.
I hire a salesperson.
Yeah.
They're supposed to do everything. And then AE never generated leads in their life, right? They received everything from marketing and they need to do that now. And they're crazy inefficient. They're paying a bunch of money for the salary. They're not closing anything. And then I'm always asking the founder, so you picked the guy and you hired the guy for closing, not for prospecting, right? And finding those leads. Or if you found the person EE with the SDR background that is able to source their own pipeline, lock the person, do not show to everyone, don't brag about it, and save that person because it's a unicorn. I mean, these people are gold. But bad thing is that there's not a lot of people like that. Usually you need to specialize these roles.
And ultimately, look, I've done enough interviews to know that if you say to an AE, are you prepared to prospect? They very rarely will just outright say no, but they don't like it. And when it comes down to the day-to-day job, they just won't do it. They'll avoid the tasks that they don't want to do or they're not good at. So you're setting yourself up for trouble. Look, it's different. If you really have only one person and budget allows, then you are going to do it. But you need to realize that you're building the company, building the model that you're going to have different people doing those different roles.
Definitely. And Simon, so for ending, what's next for Pipe Global? Is there any exciting stuff coming in for your company?
Well, I think we're looking into AI as well, just because it just makes sense to do that. So we're looking at incorporating that, helping companies bring AI into their sales process, whether it's through recommending tools itself or building what we're working on now, which is our own AI sales product as well, which is at the early stage. So we're looking into AI. You'd be crazy not to, given the market that we're in. We're just growing, speaking to lots of people, getting lots of people that are approaching us, looking to grow, because ultimately, if you look at any company set up, we've both got a natural bias towards sales. You can have the best product, the best marketing, but if you haven't got salespeople that can close deals, then eventually your company is going to shut its doors down the line, because everything ultimately comes down to, are you selling your product and have you got revenue that's growing? Are you on the increase, or are you flatlining, or are you even falling?
Simple as that, folks.
Yeah.
Either you have a revenue or you die.
Yeah, it really is that.
And Simon, I'm sure some people would be interested to connect with you. What is the best way to do that?
So the best way is on LinkedIn. So Simon, my surname is Gerstler, Gerstler. There's only one Simon Gerstler in the world, as far as I'm aware. So I'm definitely only one on LinkedIn, so they will find me doing that. There's also our website, pipe.global. So pipe.global. They can follow us on LinkedIn, our company page as well. But ultimately, people to people. So I'd appreciate if anyone connects with me, messages me directly, and always happy to meet new people and have new conversations.
Yeah, I can recommend have a coffee with Simon. He's a great discussion partner.
Oh, thank you.
I can tell you.
Likewise with yourself, Tom.
Thank you, Simon. So thanks for your time and sharing your insights. And see you soon, maybe in the Tel Aviv in the next journey.
Sounds good, Tom. Looking forward.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.